Hi, guys. Welcome to a new episode of our podcast. Today, we're going to continue with the niyamas and we're going to talk about the third niyama, which is tapas. Right, Monica? And that's all about, I think, discipline.
Oh, yes, most definitely so. Hello again, everyone, in our new episode. So, a kind reminder that the niyamas are these positive duties and observances, or basically they're the recommended activities and habits for healthy living and spiritual enlightenment, and basically state of existence in freedom, right, in liberation. And this tapas concept is very interesting. It originates, of course, from the Sanskrit word tap, and it means to create heat, to heaten up, to burn. And from here, we derive this concept of discipline, of ardent, burning enthusiasm that we need in order to have this discipline, to manifest it. It also, in a sense, it means austerity. And we'll see about that. So, what happens is that yoga tells us that we all have these, how to put it, these samskaras. And the samskaras are these embodiments of our thoughts and personality, usually, and we identify with them and we are identified with them. But they are impurities, the impure thoughts that weigh heavy on our minds, on our psychics. So it is by tapas, by austerity, by discipline, then that we burn these impurities, thus becoming, they say, more liberated or freer. So obviously, whatever causes us this type of trouble, whatever drags us down, entails a great emotional turmoil to modify. No, so then that's why it's a big challenge to go through these tapas. But it is by tapas that we reach to a point where we can manage these samskaras better. That would be the explanation. So burning away the impurities, burning away these impure thoughts, and in the most literal sense, it is by heat is created by friction, right? So when we bring a new, healthier habit in our lives, it kind of rubs up against the old habits, and now we have the beautiful metaphor of, again, burning away or creating heat. Tapas. That's how we look at it. So I was also mentioning austerity, and it is directly linked to this self-discipline. If we think, of gaining a new habit that should replace an old one, or giving away an old habit that drags us down, or literally staying in our yoga practice and being consistent. Tapas is what unites this will, this projection, this intention, this purpose that we have with the actual action that's needed to reach it. So that's how we look at tapas. And of course, we grow, we evolve, we become a more complete human being by practicing tapas. It's really a defining element of our yogic life, or of our life within yoga. No, so obviously there's a caveat here to not push ourselves too far. I mean, yeah, we can, of course, establish a series of tapas, preferably not at the same time, obviously, because nobody managed to lose weight and give up smoking at the same time. just a silly example, but just for us to see the point better. The more gradual the goal is, or the smaller goals we undertake gradually, the better rate of succeed we would have. That's how we look at it. So this also means that the caveat here is to not push ourselves too far until the point where we get hurt or we, I don't know, injure ourselves. If we talk about an asana practice, or we faint in the street because we've been doing intermittent fasting for 48 hours or something. So to sum it up, that's what tapa is.
Yeah, and this is, I think, combined with the other yamas and niyamas, right? Because you mentioned again, and we discussed about this in other episodes, like being aware of what's going on and not overdoing it, over pushing yourself, um, things like that. So that's combined with the other ones, right? That kind of lead more into this that we discussed in previous episodes.
Yeah, when I look at them, it is obvious to me that they are all interconnected. And on one hand, that's easier because it means we can approach them with ease, or with being more at ease. And it's also difficult because it means we have a lot of things to think about and to manifest and to do, of course. But they are what they are. Some niyamas or yamas might come easier for us. Others can be more difficult. For me personally, if I think of myself, discipline is fata morgana, something that I have been craving to have, and something that it's difficult for me to sustain or to maintain. I'm wired that way. Which is why I was always extremely impressed, and I have regarded people who are disciplined with utmost respect and awe, absolutely an absolute awe. Such as I think of professional sports players, for instance, like basketball players, or whatever professional sports they do. It's something that us laymen, or people who don't do competitive sports, or who don't do competitive anything, who have an easier urban life, right? Who do their jobs in a more static manner. It's something that's so strange for us, or something that's so difficult to digest, and something so unattainable, which is why undertaking a daily yoga practice, or doing something that's daily, and that takes us daily, constant, and that takes us out of our comfort zone, is so difficult to attain. Also, when I think of myself and my practice, or not necessarily a yoga practice, whatever new thing I try to start, it's extremely difficult for me to take it up, to start it, plain and simple, period. But once I build the habit, and once I integrated it within my being, within my daily life, I can then perform it without putting that much thought into it, without perceiving it as being difficult, or without admitting that I have to give something up in order to build a new habit, and or to continue the new activity. And it becomes easier and easier. But it's very difficult for me to start things. It's much easier for me to keep them up once I've started them. Yes. And of course, there's that quote, that comes to mind, because they say motivation is stupid and it's not what we should aim for. Because it's like taking a shower. You have to do it every day. You don't have to think it's there for you. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So it's not motivation that we should be looking for, it's discipline that we should be looking for.
Yeah, I think there's a few things there that you mentioned. So you were saying, that we were saying that these yamas and yamas are linked, right? Or
Mm.
actually, yeah, I think what you said is more so, yeah, they're all coming to play in different ways, right? And it can be challenging to remember, or let's say focus on them all. But I'd say, at least for the ones that we talked about so far, they're very much linked, right? Because again, it's like, okay, it's self-discipline linked with non-violence, linked with, hey, make sure you don't harm yourself, hey, make sure you're kind to other people, so I feel like they kind of, once you sort of know them, so to speak, they kind of play a role in different parts of your life, but at the same time, right, you kind of combine them, so it's not just one thing, I'd say, at least again from the ones that we talked about so far. um that's kind of how I see it. And then your story about, discipline and, not being able to start something. So the one thing that I've also seen, and I kind of understand as well, relate to it a bit, is, you know um this thing exactly, like, it's hard to start, but once you start, action begets action, so you're just gonna continue to do things, right? um and also, like, before you start, you don't really have the whole path, especially if it's like a new thing, right? You don't really know. So I feel like that's, at least for me, that's probably one of the reasons that keeps me from starting, right? Because it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, right? um but then as you do, to your point, it kind of almost starts to like become clear, not the whole path maybe, but it becomes, oh, I know what to do for the next step, right? And the next step and the next step. And then a year in or whatever, you're like, oh, okay, I've done a lot, Um, so yeah, I get that. I think it's that, again, at least in my case, that fear, not fear, but yeah, just not knowing, what you need to do. And it kind of stops you because it's this thought of, oh, this is super complex, I have no idea, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm going to be super uncomfortable.
Yeah,
um
I think, what's even more beautiful is that walking on that path and uh, acknowledging, simply seeing how it becomes clearer, it doesn't mean that it became easier. It means that we became smarter and more focused or fitter or, closer to our purpose. So the transformation is within us, I
Yeah,
would
for
say.
sure. Yeah, the more you do or engage, right, the more you grow. That's for sure as well. Yeah. So
Yeah, or as they say, when you start a new fitness routine in the gym, for instance, those exercises, they don't become easier. It's just you who are more powerful and you've increased your strength, so you're able to do them with more grace and with more ease. So it's not then that they're easier. It's just that you're getting stronger. So.
yeah, yeah. And I think on that, though, kind of a bit of a tangent, but what I noticed, and I think we discussed this a bit more in some of our previous episodes, but um, realizing just how far you've come as you continue, right, on the
Mhm,
on that
mhm.
journey. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times, exactly to your point, is like, okay, you start, yeah, a new fitness routine or whatever, right? The exercises get easier. You don't necessarily go, oh, I got better. It's like, oh, it's just got easier. I need to go to the next step. And I think, at least this happens for me. You don't, yeah, you never stop to go, but I've been, I've been doing
Progressing.
all these things. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like that's also something that, with yoga and with all these, let's say, guidelines, becomes something that you can recognize more, I'd say, with the practice,
Yeah. And you can
with
notice more and
practicing these.
more.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and realize, hey, it was me that I've been, it's me because, this is easy because of me, basically. So, yeah.
Because of my doing. Yeah. Or as another quote goes, a man who conquers himself is greater man than the man who conquers 1,000 other men in battle. So, because probably the battle with ourselves is so difficult. We tend to sometimes be lenient or to postpone stuff and yeah, It's a small victory every day to notice the progress, to celebrate it, and also it's the key that can push us forward. The small steps, I mean, and the celebrating of small successes. And continuing to explore tapas, we can also introduce the concept of Agni in yoga. This is the fire, like for instance, the digestive fire. You know, some a concept that we can get closer to if we think of metabolism, for instance. It's quite simple, but yeah, Agni is associated with the digestive fire in the body, but in yoga it's viewed as a metaphor for transformation and for purification, and that's why we think of it when we think of tapas, and it basically represents this ability to transform ourselves, to transform food into energy through the digestive fire, but similarly transform our thoughts and emotions into positive actions, the one that draw us closer to the goal. But I would really like to talk a little bit some more about a constant yoga practice. I remember you telling me that you started and you do this every once in a while. It's about this concept that's quite interesting. It's the yoga challenge concept, right? So generally there are 30 days, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which
Yeah.
honestly, that's a lot. Isn't that a lot? How do you keep up with all of the,
Um,
how? Teach me.
well, that's how I started, right? As I said, and I don't know if that's why now that's okay, because that was the expectation, or that's where the bar was from the beginning, so to speak, from day one.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, but it is, yeah, as I was saying in one of our other episodes. So it is I started with yoga with Adrian, and to these days one of my favorites. And with her challenge, one of the challenges, so she does a challenge every year at the beginning of the year, so in January, the whole month. um and whatever the challenge was then, I didn't start in January that year, but I just did the whatever it was then. And
Hmm.
that's how she does it. She does it for the whole month. You have practice every day that, so the whole, let's say, challenge has a theme, and then every day, every practice has a mantra, or its own theme. And it's focused on, let's say, maybe different asanas, obviously, or different parts of the body.
Yeah.
And I'd say most of them don't go over 30 minutes,
Yeah, that's
so it's
helpful.
around half an hour, right? So it's not, I mean, it is a commitment for sure, because you have to show up every day if you want to do it, you know. I mean, no one's forcing you to do it every day, but if you want to take part in the challenge, then you will do it daily, right? um so it is a maybe a challenge to show up every day, but in terms of time commitment, it's half an hour
It's not
really,
huge.
mostly.
It's feasible, attainable, doable.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
and
just 30
I would
minutes.
say, yeah, what I would say to that as well is, because, as I said, there's an overall theme, and then
Hmm.
all the practices are a bit linked. I think
Yeah.
that also makes it more interesting in a way, right? And it makes you want to do it maybe daily, to see, what's the next practice, what's the
Yeah.
next thing we're doing.
To see if you're
um
getting there, if you become more open, if you're improving, if you become more focused.
whatever it is, even just to like go through all the mantras and kind of see how,
Uh-huh.
yeah, maybe at the end of the challenge you feel, let's say, versus at the beginning. What I can tell you is, I started with the challenge, I've done the 30 days, and then I just continued for quite a while, because I got that already. It was wired that I need to do it every day.
You got the habit, you
um
got the discipline, you were able to maintain it. I would, like we were
yeah,
discussing earlier.
yeah, for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't do it every day right now, but I do it almost every day.
Yeah.
So
I try to.
Yeah.
But I think it's essential for some of us to be linked to such an initiative, to such an endeavor. I mean, of course, we have to be accountable for ourselves, but when there's others towards whom we must be accountable, like if we start something and we share it with a friend, then that's our accountability partner. Or if we commit to a practice, then sometimes it's easier to see, well, the mere fact that we have to do it daily and to commit to this program, to this challenge program, where others are, where the teacher is, where, where you grow towards a goal, this makes us more committed, I would say, and some of us need that in order to move to proceed onwards. So shared commitment or shared accountability, I think, might be the recipe for some sort of for the discipline that some of us need, I would say. So practice, basically this tapas reflected into yoga challenges take shape in that they go against the grain of habit. No, we stop being complacent. We are action oriented. We are dynamic. We're there. We do it. So we stop getting away with things. We stop doing what's easiest, choosing the easy way ahead, but rather commit to that practice and to that habit. Because nothing's easy, and we can't actually burn stages of becoming or of reaching somewhere, of becoming something, of reaching somewhere. We must do the actual work. And we do it with consistency, and we endure it, and we have the grit, because otherwise it's not going to happen, right? Or if we burn stages and we want
Yeah.
to be there earlier, that's not going to happen, no?
And again, I think we also might have discussed this in another episode a bit, but um to be able to, I think also to be able to even like have a chance or a good chance to build a habit and maintain it, is to really really know why you're doing that, right? But that why to be like within your core, so to speak. It's not like because society tells me to, because I need to look better, because like if
Mm.
it's not something you really identify with, that you really really like, again, you self-analyze, deep down, this is like my why, my purest why, right? I strip down all the layers of superficial stuff that
Yeah, the sense of
um
purpose, right? The sense of
yeah.
purpose.
But if you don't have that, which I think a lot of people don't, or it's hard, and this is goes, it's also me, um, and I try that, right? I see that if I don't have that, then it's so easy to just break the habit, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
because whenever it gets challenging, and it will always be, right? Or uncomfortable, or you're tired, or life gets in the
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
or whatever
But
happens, right? If you don't have your why really nailed down, you're gonna be like, whatever, right?
let's wing it.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you have it, so for me, for instance, doing yoga ultimately, outside of all the benefits that we've discussed and we keep discussing, goes to, hey, I want to have a functional healthy life. I want to be able to have a long health span as much as possible. I want to be, when I'm in my 60s 70s whatever, I want to be functional. I want to, and that is like the core for me. So I can't, like in
Mhm.
yoga and other things, right? So if I'm tired, together with a bunch of other stuff, it helps me focus better. It helps my, there's a lot of other benefits that I'm getting, but ultimately it goes back to what is it exactly that I'm trying to get. And it's not like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm getting stronger, getting more
Yes.
flexible. I
Yes.
get all of these as side effects, but
Consequences.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
beautiful, because this is exactly what Tapa is. I think it helps us access this internal wisdom, no, that recommends us to be consistent, to be persistent, to have patience, uh, to do our practice even if we don't feel like it, when there's something better to do or something else to do, when we're tired, when we're angry, when we're just not there. So, yeah, if we have tapas in mind, then we can reignite the enthusiasm for practice and for yoga in general. If we consider it, if we practice tapas. So a constant yoga practice is probably the best and easiest example of a tapas. But there are for sure others that might be very personal. Like, for instance, speaking less, practicing mauna. Mauna is this concept of silence that we may undertake when we are in a group setting, when we're away on a yoga retreat, or simply when we know that we are very talkative and we're trying to listen first and reply afterwards. Or it might be something quite trivial as just giving up sugar for 2 weeks or for. Have
Yeah,
you have you ever had such an initiative? I'm talking about the giving up sugar part.
I did, yes. But before I talk about that, I was just gonna say this concept of not talking, that is the
Oh,
one that I cannot do. So that's
yeah.
for sure. Like that was when you were saying it, I was like, okay, but
It,
also
interesting, but not for me.
I mean, I think I can listen, right? Especially if this sounds bad, but I think it applies to a lot of people. Like if the person I'm talking to is someone that I'm interested in, right? Or it's interesting in the topics that they're talking about, or the way they think, or the way they
Hmm.
expose their points, I will very much listen. So I won't, like keep thinking about what I want to say, right? Not listening, just
Yeah,
replying.
that's a yeah, yeah.
Right,
Yes,
right.
that's what we
Or
generally do.
yeah, or just completely zone out or whatever, right? No, so I definitely do listen and can shut up in that instance, but it is with the caveat that the person that I'm talking to or talks to me, again, it's like an interesting topic or an interesting way that they present it to me, obviously, right? um and I guess that's probably not the best way to say that you're listening, but it is the way that I kind of found. And if you do go into topics that I'm not interested in, or that you don't, for me, again, expose that point well enough, you will lose me. And I actually I'm not interested consciously to be, if that makes sense, to be focused, because you already, like, I don't know how to put it, like I don't care enough to I know that sounds bad, but it is like I'm like I'm wasting my time.
So
So
ideally, it should be ideally if the conversation is ignites your interest, then you're there. Otherwise,
yeah,
it's difficult to be there.
exactly, yeah. And that's, that might be something that I could practice more of. I'm not saying, it's not something that can be improved, but I think it is something that is like, my sort of like, yeah, core me. I don't know what the word is, but um yeah, I don't think I've ever been different. That's not an excuse, but you know, it's just who I am a bit. And again, that doesn't mean you can't improve, but will I get to the point where if you are telling me a really boring stuff, and again, this might be for me, might not be boring, but for me, right? Will I ever get to the point where I'm going to be like 100% listening? I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I think this is valid for all of us. Of course, we might sustain the interest out of a mere politeness, or depending
Yeah.
on the rapport we have with that individual, right? But Tapas advises us to go against the things that lay heavy on our shoulders and drag us down. So, if that habit is not destructive, or it is something that it's not something it's something that we can live with, and it doesn't bring us any long term damage, then whatever. That's just us. And I don't think I have maybe, of course, as I mentioned, very personal examples, right? Such as eating less meat or fasting or drinking less alcohol if we generally tend to drink too much alcohol, and other such things that we might suggest ourselves to start
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, you asked me about the sugar, so yes, because
Uh-huh.
I know you know. So I did give up sugar for a year and a half actually. And when I say I gave up sugar, I actually gave up all sugars. So even the fruit sugars. So the, let's say,
Uh-huh.
natural sugars.
Right.
And I can tell you that for the first, and I'm very much a chocolate addict and a sweets addict, but specifically chocolate. I just want to put that out there. So I can tell you for the first, I don't know, maybe month and a half, it was painful to say the least. It was really painful because like yeah, again, coming from someone that actually likes chocolate, likes sweets, eats them very frequently, to not having even fruits. And I know that was extreme, but I'm just saying what I've done. It's quite the change, right? um but what that challenge, and then after a month and a half or something, it became way easier and I didn't crave
Yeah, of
sweets.
course.
um but that challenge also opened my eyes, so to speak, as to how many products on the market have sugar in them.
All of
Like
them.
bread has sugar. Yeah. Yogurt has sugar. Even yogurt that is like supposedly unsweetened yogurt. Some of the brands, not all of them. Uh, Ketchup has sugar. I mean, you could say, well, ketchup is from tomatoes. Yeah, no, but added sugar.
Yes.
um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so everything,
Totally.
yeah, to your point. And because I was doing this and I was checking to not eat sugar, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Bread has sugar? What the?"
A new discovery every day. Well,
Yeah.
my less sugar tapas lasted, I think the lengthiest was probably 2 weeks. So I was never able to sustain it for that long on intention. You know, after those specific 2 weeks, I might have cut it or not. I didn't pay attention to not eat sugar, but probably I ate less. But what completely shocked me after coming back from a sugarless period of time was the terrible taste that sugary things had. So the first sip of Coca-Cola Zero that I love very much, by the way. It's complete poison, of course, but hey, you know, we gotta pick our poison. We each have our own poison. Or the smallest piece of regular milk chocolate, plain simple chocolate. My mouth was clenching with not with disgust, but with this realization and then this discovery that things might have so huge amounts of sugar. Because if they feel like that in your mouth after 2 weeks of not having anything sugary, imagine the quantity of sugar we must generally ingest.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
that
for
was big.
sure. And I had a similar but rather more, rough, let's say, experience after a year and a half. And the reason, I guess I should say, that I decided to stop was simply because I decided that I'm not going to go a lifetime without chocolate. So that is really, it was a conscious decision to do
Yeah,
that.
oh gosh, yeah. Mhm.
Um, but the first time, so after I, gave up, so to speak, my first sugary food was an apple, a green apple, which I guess those are pretty sour, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, I can tell you, I took a bite, a tiny bite of a green apple. I was like, "This is too sweet. I can't eat this." So that is the
Yeah, that's
level
how
that
it
I was
goes.
at.
You have
Yeah,
lost the habit completely. And the
completely.
taste,
And
because it's an
yeah,
acquired taste.
yeah, and it took me a long time to be able to, even to this day, I'd say, and that's been like, it's been like, I don't know, 6 years, maybe more, since I've done it. even to this day, I still can't drink, for instance, sugary drinks. I can drink Coca-Cola, but that's like the exception to all the rules, right?
Yeah.
But like I
Yeah.
can't have sugar in my coffee. I can't drink anything else that is sugary. And before then, I used to like massively do that. And I also think on a like an average level, I eat less sweets. I do
Mm.
eat them. There's no,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
great.
think yeah, it's just I never. So I got to almost what I was before, but that took a long time. Like it took months for me to be able to eat chocolate. Maybe
Mm.
not months, but maybe a month to eat chocolate and not feel nauseous. um and yeah, it really puts into perspective, to your point, like how much sugar it is and everything, and just how
A
much you're
lot.
used to eating super super sweet things that naturally you would never be able to, like if you only eat fruits and veggies, and then
Mm.
you go into milk chocolate, you're probably not going to have the best of times, at the beginning at least. um so it does put that into perspective. So I guess I don't know if I recommend a year and a half, but I probably recommend the period to just see. um
Yeah,
it could
absolutely.
be this, it could be other things, just to realize kind of, uh you know as I said, I would have, even if you would have told me, hey, after 2 weeks it's been like this, right, I've been okay. But once you experience it, it kind of, yeah, it could drive some better behaviors anyway.
Yes, and there are health consequences, of course, but putting yourself through a period of tapas such as this one is just to prove yourself, to prove to yourself that you can do it. You know, if you didn't trust this before you doing it, or if you had a discussion and others dared you and told you you're not able to do it, then whoa, here I am. I did it and I took photos of it. So yeah, this is also it's a big achievement for some of us who don't generally, who let themselves go, or who don't like challenges, or who don't like hardships, or myself included. So yeah, it's always good to be mindful of the tapas and to put ourselves through one every once in a while. Not too many at the same time, though, like I said at the beginning.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
what you said now with doing challenging things, and then
Mm.
succeeding in those, then of course that rewires your brain to realize, hey, I can do things, right? But I would take this to the yoga practice, right? So the
Mm.
actual physical yoga practice. So when you are, on your mat and you're doing, um, maybe in time, more challenging poses, right? Or at some point, this happened to me and probably happened to you and a lot of people that are doing sports or other things. So like you would do a practice with different poses, right? And you can't hit that one pose, right? And you can't hit it, and you can't hit it, and you can't. And then one time on the mat, you're like, oh, okay, I'm doing it.
You
And
unlocked it.
that, yeah, and that, realization and that feeling of, oh, okay, I'm actually, oh my god, this was impossible, like 2 months ago, a month ago, whatever. And now it's like, it's super possible. I got it. That feeling, that is completely, that's just the yoga practice, that I think translates into your life, into, okay,
Of
I can
course.
deal with more challenging situations in my life, because it gives that boost to your brain to be like, yeah, I can deal with it. I've done
Yeah,
impossible stuff.
yeah, yeah, and that sense of achievement is irreplaceable. So stick to your practice, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything else, Monica, before we close this one?
No, I think we've covered a lot of nice associations with the concept of tapas and the concept of tapas in itself. So hopefully, our listeners or viewers might want to share themselves some of their own experiences. So, guys, please don't hesitate to comment on the episode or to send us your feedback directly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I think there's examples in everyone's life, I would say, right? At some point, maybe not a challenge, but whatever you've tried to overcome or achieve, right? And how you've managed that. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is us, guys. Thank you so much if you made it this far. And we'll see you next time with a new episode.
See
Bye.
you next Friday. Bye.